Hello, welcome back here in the Caden's Weather Center. Today we're paying attention here to the tropics as we have an area of interest here off the southeast coast, off the coast of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and even North Carolina with the possibility of formation here. 60% chance by the National Hurricane Center here in the next coming of days. We're going to be seeing what's going on in the eastern Pacific as well as we have Tropical Storm Flossie continuing to move off to the northwest but weakening, but now there's an area of interest that could form right behind it. Today is July 3rd, 2025, and we're going to keep an eye on this weather today, right now. So let's just hop right into it. Alright, so let's hop right into it. You can clearly see right now what's going on around the United States. Well, we can see some heavy rainfall, going on here in western Texas. Let's actually zoom in here to western Texas. We have some flash flood warnings continuing on over here in western Texas. That's going to be including some Fort Davis, just, south of I-10 here, and maybe even north of I-10 as well as south of I-20. As we see this, big line here of just heavy rainfall that's continuing, not moving very fast at all. That's what's causing these flash flood warnings. You can also see one singular flash flood warning over here between Oklahoma City and Dallas. That does include one of the interstates here. That does include Interstate 35. Not much going on the west coast here. Over here in the northeast, we have a whole severe thunderstorm watch continuing on right over here, stretching from New Hampshire all the way up into Maine. This will go on for the next 4 hours, 43 minutes here, so by the time you're watching this video, it might be already expired, or might not be. Severe thunderstorm warnings continuing through western part of New York. These are some pretty big storms right now that are going to be continuing to push over here. Some small hail has been reported with that. Then you head over here to the southeast, you can see some rain showers and just isolated thunderstorms continuing on throughout the Sunshine State there. And then you can see this this orange area here of area of interest that has the possibility of forming as it continues to move off to the northeast here. We're going to keep an eye on that, so let's hop right into it. Alright, well first let's talk about right now here what are we expecting on the eastern Pacific side. Well, here's Tropical Storm Flossie right there. She's going to continue to move off to the northwest. She's heading into very, very, unfavorable environment, obviously, because the water temperatures are very cool up in this northern part here of the eastern Pacific. But then we have this area right here, not an invest yet or anything like that, but you can see 80% chance of development, 30 in the next 48 hours. So this could be expected to form here in the next coming of days. Maybe by this weekend we could be seeing a tropical storm. Maybe even a higher end tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But once again, we don't have any intensity models or anything like that. But we will look and see what we're going to be looking at with that probably in the next video that will be coming up later on. Taking a look at this, though, you can clearly see there's that center of Tropical Storm Flossie continuing to move off to the northwest here. Here's Baja. We're continuing to watch that. Not much going on. There's some, big bubble of thunderstorms kind of going over here in the western coast of Mexico, but not too much going on for that. You can see right now the wind speeds for Tropical Storm Flossie from the National Hurricane Center, 45 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 10 miles an hour. This is as the 8 a.m. advisory here, and we can obviously see tropical storm expected here probably at the next update, but then we'll start to weaken here by early tomorrow morning as a tropical depression as it starts heading into those cooler waters over here. Because as we know, hurricanes do not like being in cooler temperatures, and there's just no fuel for them at that time for more formation. So taking a look right now here at the spaghetti models, you can see very still spread out here. You can see that kind of, there's that storm right there, very spread out, but not much is going to be going on as the storm's going to be heading into a depression. But you can see that it stayed away from Baja as well as Mexico here, the GFS ensembles. Maybe a little loop out here, but not much to be concerned about. Now, our biggest thing that we want to be concerned about right now is the Atlantic side here. And what could we be paying attention here to the Atlantic hurricane season? We're already 1 month into the hurricane season here, but now we're going to be seeing some possibility for some activity starting to form here. Right now, here's this disturbance 1 just off the east coast here of Florida. You can see that. Let's see if we can maybe zoom in a little bit. Yeah. There we go. So it is off the east coast of Florida here, probably right off, let's see, Daytona Beach area maybe. But you can see 20% chance of formation in that general region right there. A area of low pressure is forecast to develop along a weakening frontal boundary. So there's a front that's coming down and that is expecting a possible spin up here. The National Hurricane Center expecting maybe a possible tropical or subtropical depression could form here in the next, over the weekend or into early next week. Low chances of development here in the next 48 hours is 20%. We'll see if that changes here at the 2 p.m. advisory. And 60% chance here for 7 days. And I do not think we've come out with the 2 p.m. advisory yet. We have not. So we'll keep an eye on that very, very closely here. But let's take a look at the GFS model. What are we looking at with the GFS model? Well, we can clearly see right now, you can see that the GFS model, brand new run too. This is the 12Z model. You can see by 8 p.m. tonight, still maybe some rain showers continuing on, majority on the east coast here of Florida. And then, you know, obviously we have our low pressure that's, you know, off the coast here of Florida. And there it is right there. Early tomorrow morning, 1,013 millibars, kind of bounces back and forth, but you can see here as we head into July 5th here at 2 a.m., still some pretty heavy rain after July 4th here, continuing on the Florida peninsula, and that will continue to move off to the northeast here. And, you know, we haven't really seen any models that are actually saying any possible tropical storm, but a possible tropical depression could form still off the coast of South Carolina, and then possibly head right into the North Carolina region to bring a lot of heaviest rain over here into the eastern part of North Carolina. So if you're watching in North Carolina, be aware some heavy rain could be possibly on the way for you guys as well. Taking a look at the total accumulation here by the GFS model, we can see rainfall is going to continue to ramp up here. And, you know, this is with the storm. We see some purple areas over here in central and southern Florida. That's going to be ranging between, you know, 2 inches to maybe 6 inches of rain here over the next couple of days. And we're going to be seeing this as well. It seems like majority of the GFS model is agreeing that all of the rain, the biggest of rain, stays off the coast, which is some good news for the people that do live on South Carolina, North Carolina. They stay off the coast there, and that is some good news that we won't have too much flooding or flash flood issues going on in the North Carolina, South Carolina region. But let's take a look at the European model. European model saying something a little different here. We could see not as organized, but you can see maybe a little stronger here, but really starts to get organized here when it comes into July 5th, early morning at around 11 a.m. We can see still some rain showers continuing on here during the Florida and in the Florida peninsula, but majority of the rain staying still once again on the eastern side of this storm here. That's why it could be possible subtropical here. Very disorganized storm, but then really dissipates before even making its way into the Carolinas here, as with the GFS continued to have a little bit of a low pressure going into the Carolinas. Taking a look at the the accumulation of rainfall, very big difference here. You could see maybe not much going on over here on the east coast of the United States, not as much as the GFS, and then some areas here in Florida, some areas here in the Florida peninsula, still maybe even getting just 1 inch of rain all the way up here into maybe 3.5 inches of rain over here in the next coming of days. So the European, very less on the rainfall. The icon and the GFS are a little bit more in agreement for maybe a little bit more rainfall still continuing on in the Florida peninsula. But once the storm kind of makes its way over here, as it already has the low pressure system, but as it makes its way more off to the northeast and away from Florida, majority of that rain threat problem will just be out in the ocean and not much for land at all, which is some great news there. And we kind of can see this. So taking a look at this really quickly here, we can obviously see this is by the Storm Prediction Center, the NOAA here, Weather Prediction Center, all of these above here. This is valid through today until tomorrow, July 4th here. We can see marginal risk here for some flash flooding continuing on over here down in the southeast. That does include the Florida peninsula, as well as parts of South Carolina and Georgia. We're going to be seeing that from this system that's going to be just sitting out here, continuing to move off to the northeast. Slight area of heavy rainfall and, possible flash flooding over here in western Texas and eastern New Mexico, as we're already starting to see that. Then we head into tomorrow. A little bit more of a different scenario here. The rainfall threat could possibly go on over here in Minnesota, North Dakota, but really over here in Texas, still marginal risk in some parts of the Texas region. But really, our biggest focus would be on the Florida peninsula here, as we're seeing that marginal risk still continuing on to go through Friday and Saturday as well. So we're going to keep an eye on that very, very closely. Taking a look here at the HRR model, the HRRR model, we're going to go back to the 12Z here. So you can see around 6 p.m. tonight, we could see maybe some scattered showers, thunderstorms still continuing on over here over the Florida peninsula. You can see some right in here in the Florida panhandle, and even down here in the southern part. Some thunderstorms isolated, maybe, few can have some gusty winds at times here. Then you kind of could see 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, majority of that rain is off the coast here of Florida, and then but you could still see some of the storms on the west coast of Florida here, stretching around from Tampa Bay all the way down here into probably the Keys. We're having some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms there, and you can kind of see it as tomorrow at 12 p.m. starts to continue to ramp up over here on the west coast, as there's that kind of low pressure system right there. That's going to make its way off to the northeast as well, but that's going to be bringing majority of the rain just staying out to the ocean, so no impacts with flash flooding there. But then you kind of can see it continues on. Really big thunderstorms here tomorrow night around 7 p.m. You can see big thunderstorms going on throughout the central Florida here, and you could definitely see here with this rainfall threat going on in southern Florida, we could definitely see something going on there. Now we head into 4th of July hours, 9-10 p.m. here, really 10 p.m. here for 4th of July hours. Florida Panhandle probably could get some fireworks going and all of that, but then, you know, same with South Florida, maybe hit or miss showers and thunderstorms there, but really the west coast of Florida, that's including Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa Bay, you guys are going to be getting hammered around 10 p.m. possibly tomorrow night here if this stays updated, so you guys might not be able to have too much of a 4th of July for that reason. But then you can clearly see low pressure still forms over here July 5th, continuing to move off to the northeast, not impacting too much for the Carolinas. Maybe some gusty winds could show up here at some times, but not too much. But taking a look now here at the wind shear, what are we looking at with the wind shear? We obviously know the low pressure system sitting right over here in this region, right right here in this region right here. That is in decreasing shear. Not a lot of wind shear in its way, not a lot of wind shear here in the Gulf as well. So that could help for some development as well. So that's why the National Hurricane Center is saying, you know, somewhat conducive for the environment here. That's going to push off obviously to the northeast, but you know, there's going to be some increasing shear over here of the western part here of the Gulf, and then in the northern part of the Atlantic we're going to be seeing some increasing shear with that as well. But taking a look here at the the global tropics hazard outlook, we take a look at this very often here. We can see valid through July 9th through the 15th. We can see nothing active here in the Atlantic as of right now from this update, except for something in the Eastern Pacific for some pretty low chances here of tropical cyclone development there. And then obviously July 16th through the 22nd, not much going on here, as now we're going to be certain to see some of these storms start, their tropical waves starting to make their way over here, and eventually we're starting to get closer and closer to August, which is where we start to see some active parts of the season continuing up. But let me show you this really quick. This is a good kind of area to look at here. June we didn't have as much, but now we're in July, so we have a little bit more to pay attention to. This is a little bit of an area right now that we could continue to see some tropical waves maybe start to form here into somewhat of some favorable environment, especially as they kind of make their way up here in these regions. Then we but are mostly in the July region. You can see the named of 100 from the last 100 years, the green 30 to 49 storms have formed around in this region at this time, while the blue 10 to 29. So you can clearly see that off the coast of North Carolina here, that's where our majority of these storms will probably go. According to July, this isn't always true. They could still form over here in the Gulf. They could still form over here off the east coast of Florida, is what we're already seeing. But majority of the storms tend to form off North Carolina or even on the east coast here, and kind of just race off to the northeast out here into the Atlantic. So not too much to be continuing to be worried about at this time. Obviously, if you live in Texas, make sure you're paying attention to that flash flooding threat, as well as the northeast severe thunderstorm threat. And then, we're really going to be continuing to pay attention to that flash flooding threat also throughout the Florida peninsula as well. Tomorrow, I will be coming out with a video talking about the July 4th forecast. We're going to go by coast to coast. We're going to go over your guys' best times to be seeing some of that forecast for the July 4th season, and what some plans that you guys can do. If you have any plans that you're going to be doing for July 4th, leave it down in the comments down below. I would love to know what you guys are going to be doing on July 4th and all that. But make sure to tune in tomorrow for the latest update here on your weather for tomorrow. Big questions obviously are, can Florida get some breaks for 4th of July? Same with Texas, or even up into North Dakota, Minnesota. As our 4th of July breaks coming in between, we'll have to see for fireworks. But make sure to stay tuned for that video, guys. And I hope you guys all have a great day today. And you guys are having almost a, if you're traveling, be careful out there. But make sure that you are staying safe during this 4th of July season. But I hope to see you guys all in the next video. Make sure to leave comments down below letting me know what you guys are doing. Make sure to follow the Discord as well and the X page down in the description for more information. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and bye-bye.